Hey everybody, Edo here, and for this week's video, I want to talk about OKRs, or Objectives and Key Results. Now this is actually a framework or a method for running a business and to a pretty large scale. Actually, from like the history perspective, it was first management-based objectives, which was originated by Peter Drucker, but then it rolled into Intel with Andy Grove, passed to John Doerr, who then passed it on to Google, and Google uses it. So, I live in the Bay Area. If you live in the Bay Area, lots of people talk about OKRs, and different companies try to use it. And I've now been at 3 companies, like an incubator, super small startup that was like driving into OKRs, a sort of mid-sized growing startup, maybe 100, 200 folks doing OKRs, and then a much larger organization that even brought in some Google product manager to take the entire organization through what OKRs were and how to use them. And so, I've seen it used to varying degrees of success, and there are pitfalls and pitfalls that can come from it. And I have, not a mixed opinion of it, but there are places where I think it works and doesn't work. But recently, I was thinking about Pencil First Games, and over the years, I've essentially, ran Pencil First Games as this hobby, small, indie, board game publisher, and we've been, doing, a Kickstarter or going to retail, or a bunch of sort of disparate acts. And then coming in recently, heading into 2021, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should actually use OKRs, right? Like I sort of independently was like, hey, I'm going to just do it. It feels a little heavy-handed, but I felt like it would be worth trying. And actually going through the process, it occurred to me that it's super valuable, like super duper valuable. It may not be like something you want to instill within your whole organization and build out in a big way, but the exercise of thinking about it critically and working it through what you're doing, whether it's for growing your business or how you're thinking about a Kickstarter, it's just a very smart way of doing it. And I highly recommend it. And so what I want to do in this video is, if you're a Kickstarter creator or a small publisher or maybe a mid-sized publisher or a large publisher, I wanted to introduce you to it, and you can think about it and apply it yourself. I really do think this is a valuable system. And actually, I wanted to I've used this for years, but I wanted to refresh and get a little bit more particular. And looking around, I found a site, Perdoo, P-E-R-D-O-O, that has like a big section on it with like nice icons and text, and it's like super clean. I'll link that below. I found that to be like easily the like most crisp, robust breakdown I found on the internet, albeit, probably looking for half an hour, but still very impressed with it. I just stopped when I found it. But so let's talk about it. So again, the idea here is, as an organization, you have a mission or a vision statement, which might, feel a little bit big for a board game company. But you're thinking about, like, what are the key objectives I want to do? And typically at the objective level, like, mission could be like, change the way people search the internet, or like, bring, like these big things. But like, if we set that aside, your mission statement is like, bring fun to the world. Underneath that, you're going to have some objectives. And typically you'd think about objectives for the year. That's sort of how you would do it. You could break it down into objectives per quarter in sort of small groups, or whatever makes sense to you. But that's normally how you think about it as you're sort of filtering down it. But at the top level, what are you trying to accomplish this year? And these are, they're meant to be directional. They're to draw alignment and synergy within the organization. They're big impact, big goals. And they're supposed to be inspirational and understandable, right? Like, we want to, and we'll talk about measuring them, but, goal is to establish relationships with retailers and distributors in the marketplace, connect with our customers, grow our business, double our business. That there's some specifics within there, but there's these big drivers, like, become a market leader, enter a space, launch our first Kickstarter, right? There are these big things that your objectives for what you're doing, right? And there's no, I think looking at sites and getting details, like, you can like nickel and dime the different, choices, but really just the aspirational things you're trying to do, right? For your company, for your team, for your Kickstarter. I think you can actually boil it down. So that's what the objectives are, okay? So here's the really cool thing. And so that part I think people do. Like, oh, here's what I want to do for my business. I have a business plan, and we know what our 1 year and 3 year and 5 year plan is, right? The key result piece, right, is so like objective is where are you going? The key result is like, how do you know you're getting there? What are the key metrics you are going to use to measure that success? How do you measure, entering into marketplace? How do you measure, becoming a mainstream publisher? How do you measure doubling your business? That one might be the easier of them all, but like, what are the ways that you can do that? And so the key results are like measurable, specific, actionable things you can do. So like, a key result might be, in a bigger organization, it might be a market value or some sort of success rate. But within board games, it might be, hey, we have a key title. We did, increase sales by 35% or 25%, whatever. But increase sales, increase retail sales by 25% from the previous year. And, parentheses, 25% means 300 units of this game, right? You could do it game by game, but it's specific. If you were like, engage the community, our objective is to engage our community. Okay, but what does that mean? Increase posts on social media platforms by 20%, increase likes and retweets in this context or that context. Something might be your objective is to build your central team for your organization, and a key result might be a hiring plan, and then specific people, your specific roles you're hiring, right? So you want to be able to say, we know we've delivered against this objective because we can measurably say what our key result was. I want to have the best Kickstarter ever. That's an objective, the best ever. Okay, well, what does that mean? Okay, so that means I want to have increase backer count by 20% from best so far, increase total revenue by 30% of pledges. Like, you can break them all down and break them all down, right? So you're making your success measurable. That's really what this is about. This is really why it's so great. And that process of thinking, I have this idea, this dream, this vision, because a lot of smaller publishers, creators aren't really thinking necessarily like businessmen or women. They're thinking like, visionaries or people who are inspired to do something, creators. And in that sense, oftentimes those objectives are very, gold dust in the wind, right? They're very big off the ground, dream, high level objectives and goals. But it's pulling that to a place where you can be like, no, if we do these things, we can do that. Now, again, this is something that you're then passing these keys and objectives through your company, and they're setting their objectives against those results, and how, like, there's this cascading thing at a big company. But even if you're just working by yourself, even if you're working with 2, 3, 4 other people, it's so valuable. And I really think it just helps you think about what you're trying to do, because it's, how do I do what I want to do, right? Okay, so it's called OKRs, but there's a couple other things. Underneath the key results is typically then initiatives, right? What are the things that you will do to then drive the results to then get those objectives, right? That's the idea. So we want to increase, total, let's go to the Kickstarter example. Want to launch our Kickstarter next year with our most successful Kickstarter ever. The key result is increased backers. Okay, what are we going to do to now go from a 2,000 backer count to a 2,500 backer count? Okay, well, now what are those initiatives? Well, we're going to look at how to increase our pre-market, our pre-campaign page and marketing and these other things. And we're going to have a pre-campaign initiative, a during campaign initiative. We're going to break it down. And each one of those is something we're going to do to deliver a result, which can be measured. We can say we did that thing, we didn't get the result, which will then lead to the objectives, right? And you can measure, you can track, you can say, we succeeded or we failed. Sometimes you'll succeed, but not because of any of your initiatives, right? You're like, these things didn't work, but we still tripled our sales. Why was it? Well, it was because we were doing all these other initiatives, but Amazon took off at the same time, and we had this incredible spike in Amazon sales, which we had nothing to do with. Okay, well, when you're setting your objectives and key results for the subsequent year or quarter or however you want to think about it, you then can look at that and be like, well, we should do something about our Amazon relationships. Now, actually, this isn't listed. I don't think or know if this is part of the actual, I don't think it is because it's not here and I don't recall it. But like from experience, having done this, the other thing that I think is critical is owners. So like you have an initiative, that initiative needs somebody responsible for it. Like to me, that draws the line to like a person. At a big company, maybe you have departments and like there's just too many people perhaps. But for me, I feel that being able to say this person who has a name and a face is responsible for this initiative that's tied to this result, key result, that's tied to this objective. I think when you don't have the owner, you oftentimes get initiatives that flounder and then don't deliver. So perhaps it's some different methodology, but like I think that's a big deal, and like I'm going to tack that on to my version of it is have an owner whose name goes next to that initiative for the result, for the objective. Why do this? Again, I think, and that's the long and the short of it. I mean, I went through I've been through like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of training, and it's all about how to like think about the best written objectives and think about how to like phrase your key results and finding that perfect 70% reach goal stretch, so that you want it to be attainable, but not, you want it to be growing, but not impossible because a key result has to be attainable. Man, I've gone through all of that. I think it's valuable, but to me, this is how I'm boiling it down. I think like the rest, you could spend some time in, you could read the Purdue side I've added here, or just, but I think that covers it. And I think it has a couple really big impacts. One, there's like, I don't know a good expression of it. It's like taking hammer to task. Like it's very much taking that, the loose, the ephemeral, the vision, the dream, and it's just like sewing it down into reality, into a plan. And it's not the plan exactly, but it helps form the plan and align the plan and get everything locked into place so you're like there. And then to the initiatives and the actions and the people, making it just everyone aligned, right? And so I think it helps the owner, the person driving, to do that. But then if you have a team, it really strengthens the sense of team, strategic alignment from the team. People understand that they're focused on delivering against its execution. And because it's measurable, they're engaged with it and can see their success and measure their success. Or, their failures. But, everything, organizations that take this on, build it in, people who are doing performance reviews and all this is based on, hey, what were your department's OKRs? How did you meet those? The other really, again, this is a bigger company thing, but it's also a really good way if you're in a larger organization, if different groups have, so you have your big OKRs, the big top ones, and then you filter down, and those are a year goal, and then you might have your group like the marketing department OKRs and the sales and whatever development, and that's gonna you'll have your little group will have quarterly ones. What you might find is tension or conflict between OKRs, right? So group A is focused on growing your business and driving user count, and group B is focused on profitability, and their OKRs might not align because this company's this side of the business just spend, and this side of the business is trying to save money. That's not a great example, but there's examples where Different objectives might lead to different evaluation of results. Like this side of the business is doing something to drive this result, which actually isn't supporting the other side. And when you get into that conflict, you want to like discuss it and pass it upward and get clarity so your business can be like, no, this is what we're trying to do. So let's get that tight alignment. So it also can act as a place to see it where people are sort of out of their lane, or not out of their lane, but like not really getting, not aligned enough. For when I started doing it with Pencil First Games, I just did it in a spreadsheet and just started writing out like what are the objectives for the business, what are the key results, how do we do that, and then for the folks that are involved, started getting them involved and pulling them through. I definitely would also emphasize the OKR process is a time and a place to involve and engage your employees, right? Like, don't, at the top level, you might be like, here's what we're trying to do, everybody. But as you boil it down, you definitely want people to participate in creating their group objectives and their sub-objectives, and for sure, clear alignment, sign-off, and approval of what those key results is. Nothing's worse than having some sort of target that's arbitrary, that's been handed down, that's totally irrational, and not really, like, you want this to be, it's like top down and bottom up, right? You want to set a clear vision, clear objectives, but then you want the rest of the team to engage with it and create those results, drive the initiatives to do it, right? And then I tacked in that owner for that accountability, especially in a group with 4, 5, 6 people, 8, 10, 20. And even, I guess, in that mid-range, right? When you're not just like department after department after department, and especially if you have people that sort of flow around the, like if you don't have good defined departments, owners are really good, right? Like if you have 7 people that all sort of wear different hats because you're a startup, Joe, Frank, Susan, Katrina, whatever, like any of the people who are doing the different things, like making sure that they're aligned and crisp on it goes a long way. All I can say is any of my peers, any folks that are, again, Kickstarter creators, business owners, small publishers, media publishers, large publishers, it's worth the mental exercise. It's worth just thinking about it, writing it out, like spend the 2 hours a day doing it. You don't necessarily have to like change your corporate culture. Like you don't have to like thrust it through. But I think you'll find it interesting and impactful, as will people who participate. And then you can see it, test it, and continue doing it. So this was OKRs. I hope this was helpful. Thanks. Bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.